India
Mm-hmm.
as a country, if you look at it, more people are investing. You know it. The amount of mutual fund investments that are coming in month on month, that's been growing phenomenally. Anyway, you're going to spend every year across different things. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
keeping it in the bank or instead of taking credit or EMI and doing this, do it via SIP. And you
Mm-hmm.
get the right mutual fund investments and you get the right brand discounts as well. So it's a no-brainer for someone
Mm-hmm.
to do this.
Got it. How do you decide which user on his risk profile will get which I mean or should allocate I mean should get allocated which funds, right?
Uh,
So which user should get which funds? Is there a rule engine? Is there an AI model sitting? Is there a person manually doing it? कैसे हो रहा है?
yeah, so of course, it's not manual. There is a man
Mm-hmm.
or men and women behind this
Mm-hmm.
in terms of building the engine, but it is a robo advisory that we build,
Okay.
which we keep refining it.
Welcome back to an exciting episode of Fintech Ki Baat. Today we have with us Mr. Pari Raghavan, founder of Multipl. Hey Pari, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
Pari
Shreyas.
has been, a very wonderful guest. We just did the first part of the podcast, which is essentially the founder's story. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do check it out. He has shared some interesting insights and amazing tips for all you budding entrepreneurs out there. The link should be somewhere here. You can find it and go check it out, whatever, and come back. Now that you're back, Pari, thank you so much for doing this. You have been a wonderful guest.
Thank you very much, Shreyas.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Trust me, this has been one of the most candid and heartfelt conversations that I've had in the previous segments, and I hope the audiences does check it out. Having said that, let's talk about Multipl. It is into a business that you call Spendvesting, right? So let's take it from the top. What's the origin story of the name Multipl? Let's start from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, multiple, we are in the fintech, that's why we are
Mm-hmm.
talking today. So it is about managing money, it's about investing and growing your money. And as per the name, we were actually thinking of something which should be short so
Mm-hmm.
that the domain is there, something
Right.
which is more common in terms of pronouncing it. So we
Mm-hmm.
were just thinking of few options as it always happens with getting the right name. So it just
Mm-hmm.
hit us about why don't we call this multiple without the e. And
Uh,
when it comes to money, people always talk about multiplying your wealth, multiplying your money. And it's also
Mhm.
the logo that we have is an asterisk, which is also more like a wheel around
Right.
progress. So we felt
Mm-hmm.
this is a short name, symbolizes something to do with multiplying wealth, and it's something that we all liked.
Amazing. No, I think the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about Multipl and that it's into spend investing, the first thing that came into my mind was multiplying wealth, right?
Mhm.
Investing in multiple वो दिमाग में वही आता है. At least for
Correct.
someone
Yes.
who has a finance background.
Perfect. That's good to know that that is how you also looked at it.
Indeed, indeed. Great, great, great. So what exactly does Multipl do? Let's dive into that.
Yeah. So Multiple is creating a new category, not just in India, but globally.
Mm-hmm.
And we call this category spendvesting, which is essentially asking people to invest for your spends. We've
Mm-hmm.
been investing,
Interesting.
we've been spending. So what we are doing is we are bringing these two together and getting people to invest for spends. India as
Mm-hmm.
a country, if you look at it, more people are investing. You know it. The amount of mutual fund investments that are coming in month on month, that's been growing phenomenally. Not
True.
just the MF investments across the board,
Mm-hmm.
other investments, whether it is equity, whether it is other asset classes, people have been very active about investments. So there is
Indeed.
a growing investor population in India. That is one thing. The other is
Mm-hmm.
also around consumption. We are consuming more as
बिल्कुल.
an economy, like international travel, number of iPhones that are getting purchased in India.
True.
I mean, of course, there is an EMI angle to it. We can talk about it, but more
Yes.
iPhones are getting purchased. More the wedding spends are actually increasing. More consumption across the board. So,
Indeed.
multiple is actually at the cusp of both investment and consumption. Getting people to, and we are just connecting these two, getting people to invest for your consumption, which is the unique angle
Mm-hmm.
that we are taking in terms of how you do this and why you should do this. when you're actually investing for your spends, two things happen. One is, of course, you get returns on your investment. And
Right.
the second thing is, when you're consuming or when you're spending, you also partner with brands, and
Mm-hmm.
brand gives you a contribution or a discount. So as a consumer, you would get returns and you would get discounts, which together makes this a very
Mm-hmm.
compelling value proposition, right? So it
I
beats
see.
every other system. Pure on the economic standpoint, this beats every other system or every other method of spending. So that's the whole uh, you know uh, story about what
Understood.
multiple is.
That is very interesting. So you are telling me that you have built a platform that allows people to invest for their spends.
Exactly.
So if I were to interpret it correctly, it is investing for future spends.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
these are
Mm-hmm.
spends that can be very short term, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just another angle of explaining this. So we have this 50-30-20 budgeting principle, quite
Right.
common, quite popular.
Mm-hmm.
50% of your income going to your needs, 30% your wants, and 20% is for your savings.
Right.
So typically, if you see, the 20% savings is for your
Mm-hmm.
wealth creation, long term retirement planning. Anything to
True.
do with long term goes into that 20% bucket, while
True.
the needs and wants primarily today have been served either through credit or by keeping money in the bank,
Hmm.
which is not even beating your inflation, the
True.
bank, the CASA returns. So
Mm-hmm.
what we are suggesting, we are actually encouraging our users, and a lot of users are doing that, is getting to invest for your needs and wants as well as for your savings. So when you're actually investing for your needs and wants,
Mm-hmm.
whether this could be your holiday travel, it could be your anniversary gifting, your birthday gifting, or even your car insurance
Right.
premium, or any random shopping spend, your next iPhone purchase. So that is
Mm-hmm.
what you're actually investing for, which is not been done so far. People have been investing, even a goal-based investment have always been about, I would want to buy a house in 5 years, I would want to buy
Mm-hmm.
a bigger car in 3 years, or I want to do an international travel in 3 years. That's how people have been
True.
doing goal-based. Here we are actually talking about a spend that could happen in the next month, in 3 months, in 6 months, or 1 year. So it sort
Mm-hmm.
of brought the duration down to a much smaller frequency or much smaller window, and getting people to invest for that.
Right. No, makes sense. Makes sense, right? Let's kind of deep dive into what a user journey or a user experience would be from end to end in this entire piece.
Sure. Yeah. So we are Multipl is a SEBI RIA. So we are not
Mm-hmm.
a distributor. We don't take commission from
Right.
mutual funds when we are actually giving this out. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a conscious decision. Of course, we could always do distribution, but the reason why we chose to use our RIA license was
Mm-hmm.
because we felt that's the right thing to do for a consumer.
Right.
For them, we are not selling a mutual fund. Somebody is
Mm-hmm.
trusting us and coming to us for a financial advice. We should not be selling a product. We should actually be in their side and giving them the right advice. So we thought that is
Indeed.
actually a better way to handle this, which is where, we are a RA. So the journey works like this, Shreyas. I
Mm-hmm.
come to Multipl, I download the app, and maybe for example, I have a travel planned for summer. I
Mm-hmm.
want to, I'm a United fan, so I want to watch United play in Old Trafford next season,
Mm-hmm.
May or June. So I create a travel goal for UK, Manchester travel goal on Multipl, and
Mm-hmm.
then I sort of estimate the cost. Let's say it's about 2 lakhs, and over the next 6 months, I would be investing about 1,60,000 over the
Mm-hmm.
next 6 months. That is what I would invest as SIPs. And I
Right.
also indicate I'm going to travel, let's say through Make My Trip as a travel brand, that I would
Got
go
it.
to this travel. So now for this 1,60,000 or the SIP that I'm actually doing every month, this is getting automatically invested in curated mutual funds that
Mm-hmm.
is based on my risk profile, that is based on my goal duration, and so many other factors like what is the current market conditions and all of that. And then
Mm-hmm.
we choose, so this 25, 26,000 SIP should be invested across 3, 4 funds that we
Mm-hmm.
select based on my risk profile. This is all auto selector. So the
Right.
consumer doesn't have to go and choose out of 1,000 plus funds. what is
Hmm.
the fund that I should actually invest in. They don't have to worry about any of that. So all of this is abstracted. It's transparent, but they don't have to worry about that. We actually choose the funds, give it to the consumer that these are the funds that your 26K would be invested in, and
Hmm.
you can choose Make My Trip or any other travel brand that we have as partners. And then I start my investment journey. And every month, it's an automated SIP mandate that we have. So every month, the same amount is debited from your bank account. It goes
Hmm.
directly into those specific mutual funds, and you get the NAV allotted. Multipl doesn't hold the consumer's money. We are only
Hmm.
an advisor and an execution platform. And
Got it.
whenever you want to withdraw your money, either
Hmm.
as towards a spend for a brand, you can generate a voucher from the brand and spend. In my
Hmm.
case, around April, May, I would actually generate a Make My Trip voucher for 2
Hmm.
lakhs, and then I would actually use it for my travel. In case I decide not to travel for whatever reasons, I
Right.
would still get my investment plus the mutual fund returns. I can take it
Hmm.
back to my bank account. So I
Understood.
have full, complete, flexibility and control over my money and how I want to use this. So this is broadly the journey where you can invest for a future spend. This is
Hmm.
what we typically sort of put it out for a consumer, which is like a planned sort of a spend. This could be
Hmm.
your holiday travel or your insurance premium or anniversary gifting, where you know the date and you work backwards
Right.
and then start investing for it. But many times, what we've also seen is people don't plan. This
Right.
could be, there is some offer, great offer, some sale happening on
Hmm.
some shopping product that you would want to buy, or maybe a weekend travel that you really didn't plan. So we also
True.
support a behavior wherein you keep investing into a travel fund or a shopping fund every month, whatever you're comfortable with. And you can
Hmm.
dip into that fund anytime that you want and use it along with the brand discount. And then,
Hmm.
you still get this dual boost of market returns and brand discounts, right? So essentially, what we are building here and what we are encouraging users is to be smarter with their money. Anyway,
Hmm.
you're going to spend every year across different things, instead of
Hmm.
keeping it in the bank or instead of taking credit or EMI and doing this, do it via SIPs, and you
Hmm.
get the right mutual fund investments and you get the right brand discounts as well. So it's a no-brainer for someone
Hmm.
to do this.
Got it. So this essentially also forces people to plan well in advance to save for it,
Uh,
and also kind of I would say discourages the impulsive buying culture, right? That देखा तो swipe करके ले लिया, मतलब वो
Correct.
impact बैंक अकाउंट में आता नहीं है ना when you swipe a credit card.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
this makes you more thoughtful कि नहीं, if you want to buy a iPhone, if you're keen कि नहीं iPhone 17 के rumors अच्छे लग रहे हैं अभी से, तो अभी से चालू कर दो SIP.
exactly.
Buy it after this thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Shreyas. In fact, I had actually put out a post some time back, and I was watching this Netflix
Hmm.
documentary about Buy Now, the shopping conspiracy.
Hmm.
It's a nice documentary, a brilliant one, something that talks about how people are induced into spending
Hmm.
mindlessly. I mean, I'm not a anti-consumption person, so we are not a preachy sort of a company saying, hey, why do you want to travel, why do you want to buy your iPhone,
Hmm.
invest करो उसको बढ़ा दो. Like, that's not the angle that we want to take, and we don't want to be preachy. It's
Hmm.
individuals lives and they have aspirations.
Of
What we are
course.
saying is, by investing for it, you can
Hmm.
avoid those mindless consumption, you can avoid those impulse purchases, because there's also the data that talks about, many times there is this 65% of people in
Hmm.
the US, actually, when they are buying electronics, they actually have buyer's remorse, electronics or apparels and others, right? So you
Right.
end up doing things and then you regret later that, hey, why did I even do this, right? So when you
True.
do this with Multipl, when you invest and then spend,
Hmm.
naturally you are going to give yourself the time to think whether you really want to do this.
Of
And when
course.
you want to do this, of course, you're going to be doing this in the most cost efficient manner.
Indeed, indeed. I'll share a personal anecdote here, right? In this case, when I look back, every time that I have bought an electronic item, कि यार सेल में है ले लेते हैं, ये है वो है, that I might not have necessarily needed. Almost 80% of times I've had remorse कि यार क्यों खरीद लिया, and अब भी वैसे ही पड़ा हुआ है. Like I've
Well,
bought a DSLR that way. I've bought some couple of speakers that way. And then they think about the money that, yeah, if I would have invested it, I would have probably bought something that I actually wanted to plan for.
wanted. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I think my hypothesis here is that if you care enough to plan to buy something, you will not regret buying it later because you have thought it through. You know that you want it, and तुम खरीदोगे.
exactly.
And getting returns on it is an additional what do you say, cream on top.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. And the other aspect, Shreyas, for this is even the brands are going to have very loyal customers when they
Mm-hmm.
actually do this. Now, you are going to, there are not going to be any returns. You're going to be
Yep.
really happy about this particular purchase with the brand, and you're going to be a positive ambassador for the brand. So this is
Mhm.
the right way to buy things wherever it's possible. This is what we advocate.
True, 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 true. Indeed, indeed. So one really tricky question here, and you can choose to say, yeah, nahi, I don't want to answer this. But how do you make money out of this? How does Multiple make money out of this entire thing?
No, absolutely. We are very transparent about it. We will be happy to talk about it. As an advisor, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, we are not supposed to take commission from the fund houses, which we don't take.
Right.
We offer unbiased allocation. Whatever those funds are, what is right for the user is what we actually allocate. We
Mm-hmm.
do take, and these are all direct commission-free funds that are getting allocated. So we do take a 0.5% annually, which is like 0.04%
Mm-hmm.
per SIP as an advisory fee. That is not just the advisory, it also is execution mandate. All of those things are
Mm-hmm.
factored in that. So that is one thing that we actually take from the consumer. That's a small fee that we take. The other aspect is, of course, what we get from the brands. In my own example, I was talking about Make My Trip for UK travel next summer. And
Mm-hmm.
if I go and do this transaction with Make My Trip for example 2 lakhs,
Mm-hmm.
I as a consumer get 10% benefit, and
Mm-hmm.
you also get a small margin from the brands. It could
Got it.
vary, but that's another aspect that we actually monetize. So when
Mm-hmm.
and there is no compulsion for the consumer to buy from the brand, it's their choice. If they
Mm-hmm.
do it, we actually make a small percentage on that.
Ah, I see, I see. So more like a referral model kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, looking at this entire thing from an investor's perspective, how would you scale this horizontally, or is there a need to scale this horizontally?
Yeah. When you say horizontally, how are you framing this, Shrey?
The way I would define horizontally is key adding more of either investment products, more kind of brand partnerships. So it's an obvious thing that you
Uh,
need more and more brand partnerships.
uh,
But from an investment side, would you
uh,
want to scale it horizontally?
Yeah, so right now we've done mutual funds. So we actually ask people invest in mutual funds for your
Hmm.
spends or
Right.
even for your spends.
Hmm.
So that's what we say. And mutual funds actually is a brilliant product overall. If you see, this
Hmm.
across the board, whether equity, debt, index fund. There are like lots to play around within the mutual fund world.
Hmm.
For some of the people who may not be aware of it, and we've seen this with many of our users also. People don't know the difference between a regular and an advisory based allocation, right? A direct plan and a regular plan. There
Right.
is a difference that people are not many times aware of it. That
Right.
awareness is happening, which is good. But there are also mutual fund is not a single product. Just for the
Hmm.
benefit of the audience, just clarifying that mutual fund is not a single product. There are different aspects to it. There is
Hmm.
a overnight fund or a liquid fund, and then there is a debt fund, which are much more safer. And then
Hmm.
based on the individual's risk ability, the time frame, time horizon, you could have hybrid funds, equity funds,
Hmm.
multi-cap, flexi-cap, all those different
Got it.
types of funds. So the returns vary across all these different funds, right? It could be something from 3.5%, 4% to all the way to 25, 30, or some of those actually give you.
Hmm.
I personally had returns for some of my own investments crossing 40%. That's a factor of the market and the duration of my goal. But yeah,
Hmm.
and I've also had 7, 8%, which is on the debt fund
Right.
category, right? So yeah, the way the mutual fund itself is a big product, which is what we are focusing on. But
Hmm.
beyond that, if we have to expand, we are not a manufacturer, so we would actually be looking at options. If there are attractive avenues that we could actually plug in, we would always
Hmm.
be open about it. From a regulated product standpoint, yeah, that makes it easier. We are a regulated entity. But if
बिल्कुल.
there are unregulated products like Abhi Crypto Ka sort of a Phoenix sort of a
Hmm.
thing, right? It's come back, crossed
Right.
100K recently.
Right.
So not sure how this is going to pan out in India, but if
Hmm.
there are strong, regulatory guidelines for this, and if it is an attractive thing, we could actually look at that. So yeah, we'll always be open with adding other asset classes, but right now we are very happy with mutual funds because it has a lot of potential, and but mutual fund
बिल्कुल.
itself has gives us a lot of room to play around with.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल, makes sense, makes sense. In this entire piece, right? I have one question on how do you decide which user on his risk profile will get which I mean or should allocate I mean should get allocated which funds, right?
Huh.
So which user should get which funds? Is there a rule engine? Is there an AI model sitting? Is there a person manually doing it? कैसे हो रहा
Yeah, so of course, it's not manual. There is a man
है?
or men and women behind this
हम्म.
in terms of building the engine, but it is a robo advisory that we built,
Okay.
which we keep refining it, so that analyzes all the mutual funds across different parameters. So it could be around individual the risk profile, it could be the goal itself, whether it is a need or a want or a savings, it could be the goal duration, it could be current
हम्म.
market condition. So many factors are actually used to allocate a particular fund or a group of funds to a user, or a mixture of different things. So somebody could be for a 10,000 SIP, for example, I could be getting one or two debt funds. I could also be seeing a hybrid fund, all going into
हम्म.
this basket for this 10K. So everything is done through the robo advisory. The robo advisory is built by the investment research team at Multipl, and that keeps constantly evolving, constantly getting updated. But it's all done completely
Interesting.
automated.
So, I would be keen to talk about this robo advisory piece a bit more, right? So, in many places, I've heard a lot of people use robo advisory as a term. एक time पे buzzword था, अभी थोड़ा कम हो गया. But it is
कम
now
हो गया
actually
अभी
normalized.
अभी बात वापस शुरू हो जाएगा एआई
हाँ,
के दिस वुड बी एआई एडवाइजरी आ जाएगा
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल. So, generative AI वाला advisory, कुछ ना कुछ आता रहेगा. So, what I want to understand is some people build rule engines, elaborate rule engines, and call it robo advisory. Some people add a machine learning element to it, and then build a rule-based chatbot on top of it, and call it a consumer-facing robo advisory. And in many cases, there is a proper robo advisory model structured with layers of a mixture of ML plus some level of AI integrated into it, and then the outputs are proper actual robo advisories as expected. So, how have you guys built it?
Yeah. So for us, it's a proper robo advisory. There is a lot of ML, but a lot of it is around querying, around data
Mhm.
that we use, historical data, and also some predictive data, and how the performance has been. So all of these go into this model. I won't call this the generative AI yet, but that's something that we
Mhm.
naturally would want to look into. Someone
Mhm.
coming from tech, I'm like really passionate about and very
बिल्कुल.
bullish about the prospects of Gen AI across
Mhm.
domains, and definitely in finance as well. So this would be a logical path that we would take. But to be honest, we are not a Gen AI at this point in time. It's more of some ML, a lot of querying,
Mhm.
a lot of data that we use to
Got
build
it.
this model. But eventually, this would evolve into a Gen AI advisor.
Mhm. So, just wanted to understand what is your view since you brought up the Gen AI piece, right? I was really intrigued by how a lot of people perceive it in the fintech space, right? I've seen a few use cases here and there. Most of them are surface level use cases की chatbot बना दिया to I mean to talk about a backend whatever document or whatever that is. For example, there is a Gen AI build, uh, which is essentially an AI chat assistant that queries a policy database in the backend insurance ka, and then gives you कि यार ये policy में ये है इसमें है, and then compares it for you.
Correct.
So those are more like fine-tuned models that are built. So what I mean, and that is the I think the only use cases that I've seen as of now are those kind. What has your perception been on Gen AI, and how essentially can it be optimally used?
Mhm.
I'm emphasizing on the optimal part here. Optimally used for the fintech use cases. In your case, the multiple use cases. Do you think there are genuine advisory capability? Genuine enhancement to the advisory capacity that you have built that you can extract out of a Gen AI model, or is it more like a fancier front end for easier NLP and NLG?
Yeah. Right now, it is more of a fancier front end, but I think we should all be taking it towards a more robust, truly Gen AI capability is how it would evolve soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have a lot of, and this is especially in fintech, of course, there are in other areas also where there is the whole idea of indigenization or localization with
Mm-hmm.
regards to the Gen AI. Even in fintech, it's going to be the case. One is the regulatory aspect, but the other is
Right.
also the data and the performance. Different markets have been performing differently
Mm-hmm.
across the globe. So you can't just bring a model that is working in the US and apply it here because
True.
they probably have 100-year data or more and
Mm.
working around that while we have a lot less data to play
Indeed.
around with. And there are also a lot of nuances in terms of how this market has
Mm-hmm.
been shaping up. There are certain things that have happened in the past that have triggered, spikes, ups or downs. So we need to be wary of those conditions when we're actually using a truly Gen AI sort of a recommendation, right? So
True.
you could just be falling into a trap by actually putting that out or trusting Gen AI. So I think we are pretty much there, but it would still need certain iterations to bring that confidence to say that yeah, this is working.
Definitely.
That's how I would actually see it, and that's how we are seeing it at Multipl. So yeah, I would not come and give you a Gen AI recommendation today
Mm-hmm.
to the consumer because we don't know some of the nuances of it. So we need
Of
to be
course.
more confident. In fact, I mean
Indeed.
that's the way we go about anything. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, you asked about the horizontal aspect, and we were evaluating P2P
Mm-hmm.
very seriously. But our investment research team, at some point, they were not comfortable. We knew this is a good thing. People are going to gain, but somewhere we felt that we need to be a little more patient and try to
Mm-hmm.
understand this if it is making sense. And then
Indeed.
the whole regulatory hit happened, and in
True.
hindsight I think we made the right decision by not